What if I told you that right now? While most people are distracted by politics, entertainment, sports, and social media drama, one of the biggest financial transformations in modern history may already be happening quietly in the background. And what if years from now people look back at this exact period and realize this was the moment the financial world started changing forever? Because honestly, that's why so many investors are suddenly paying attention to XRP again. Not just retail traders, not just crypto influencers, not just YouTubers. Banks are watching. Governments are watching. Institutions are watching. Payment companies are watching. Asset managers are watching. And whether people realize it or not, the conversation around XRP has become much bigger than simple price predictions. This is no longer just about, can XRP go up? The real question becoming more important now is this. What role could blockchain infrastructure eventually play inside the future global financial system? Because the truth is, something feels different right now. You can feel it in the economy. You can feel it in the banking sector. You can feel it in global markets. And you can especially feel in the way institutions suddenly started taking digital assets seriously after years of publicly mocking the entire industry. Think about how crazy that shift really is. A few years ago, major banks called crypto dangerous. Now, many of those same institutions are quietly building blockchain divisions. A few years ago, governments talk about banning digital assets completely. Now, central banks around the world are actively researching digital currency systems. A few years ago, tokenization sounded like some futuristic sci-fi concept. Now, trillion-dollar asset managers are discussing tokenized financial products openly. That's not random. That's not noise. That's transformation happening in real time. And most people still don't fully understand how massive this shift could eventually become. Now listen carefully because this part matters. This video is not financial advice. I'm not here to promise you unrealistic price targets. I'm not here to tell you XRP is guaranteed to replace the dollar tomorrow. And I'm definitely not here to push fake overnight millionaire fantasies. But what I'm going to do is explain why many investors genuinely believe we may be witnessing the early stages of one of the largest wealth transfer events in modern financial history. Because historically, whenever technology changes the structure of society, money moves. Massively, the internet created entirely new industries. Mobile technology reshaped commerce globally. Social media changed communication forever. Streaming disrupted traditional media. Artificial intelligence is now transforming productivity and business infrastructure worldwide, and blockchain technology may eventually transform parts of finance itself. Now think about this carefully. The people who benefited most from the internet boom were not the people who waited until everyone already understood the internet. The biggest winners were usually the ones who recognized the shift before mainstream adoption exploded, before Amazon became Amazon, before Apple became Apple. Before Google dominated search, before social media took over culture. At the beginning, most people dismissed those opportunities. Some laughed at them. Some ignored them. Some thought the technology was overhyped. And now history may be repeating itself again, except this time the conversation revolves around money itself. The movement of money, the settlement of money, the storage of money, the digitization of money, and the infrastructure controlling how value moves globally. That is why this XRP discussion matters so much to supporters, because Ripple focused specifically on financial infrastructure years before most people even understood where blockchain technology could eventually go. Most crypto projects focus heavily on speculation, hype cycles, and internet culture. Ripple focused on institutional liquidity systems. That's a huge difference. And honestly, that difference may become increasingly important over time. Now let's talk about something most people completely misunderstand. The global banking system today is incredibly outdated. Seriously, most people assume because they can tap their phone and send money instantly through an app that the global financial system itself is modern. It's not. Behind the scenes, many international financial transfers still operate through systems built decades ago. Cross-border payments can still take several business days. Multiple intermediary banks are often involved. Settlement delays create inefficiencies. Liquidity gets trapped across separate jurisdictions. And moving money globally still costs financial institutions billions and billions of dollars every year. Think about how insane that really is. Technology advanced everywhere else at unbelievable speed. Artificial intelligence can generate videos. Phones can process billions of calculations instantly. Cloud computing transformed global communication. But moving money internationally? Still slow. Still expensive. Still fragmented. Ripple saw this problem early. And instead of building another crypto project based purely on hype, they built around institutional utility. That's one reason XRP supporters remain so confident despite years of volatility and criticism. Because Ripple wasn't trying to become a meme. They were trying to become infrastructure. Now here's where things become even more interesting. The current financial system is under serious pressure right now. And I mean serious pressure. Global debt is exploding. Governments continue spending aggressively. Interest payments are rising. Inflation concerns still exist. Banking instability keeps appearing in waves. Commercial real estate markets remain stressed. And confidence inside traditional institutions isn't nearly as strong as it once was. People can feel it. That's why every time another bank experiences problems, every time markets panic, every time liquidity concerns appear, people immediately start searching for alternatives. Because deep down, investors know something important. Financial systems only look stable until they suddenly don't. History proves this over and over again. Most crises appear unexpected, only because people ignore warning signs until pressure finally breaks something. And when cracks begin forming inside systems people trusted for decades, psychology changes rapidly. People begin asking uncomfortable questions. What happens if the current banking system keeps struggling? What happens if blockchain technology evolves faster than expected? What happens if tokenized finance becomes mainstream? What happens if institutions fully integrate digital settlement systems? And that's exactly when XRP suddenly enters the conversation again. Now, let me make something crystal clear. This does not mean XRP automatically takes over the global economy. It does not mean banks disappear tomorrow. And it definitely does not mean every XRP holder becomes rich overnight. But what it does mean is that finance itself may be entering one of the largest modernization periods in modern history. And whenever systems modernize, wealth often shifts. Massively. Because new infrastructure creates new winners. That's what happened during the internet revolution. That's what happened during the mobile technology explosion. And some investors believe blockchain infrastructure could eventually create another massive shift over the next decade. Now, another reason XRP supporters are so focused right now is because institutional adoption conversations are becoming impossible to ignore. Years ago, institutions openly mocked crypto. Today, they're building around it. Banks are researching blockchain systems. Governments are creating digital asset regulations. Payment companies are modernizing settlement infrastructure. Asset managers are investing billions into tokenization research. And central banks worldwide are actively discussing digital currency systems. That's not theory anymore. That's reality. And honestly, most retail investors still don't fully understand how early this transition might actually be. Because while average people are watching price candles every day, institutions are discussing infrastructure. That's the real game. Liquidity rails, settlement systems, tokenized assets, cross-border interoperability, digital financial architecture. That's where trillions of dollars eventually move. And Ripple positioned itself directly inside those conversations years ago. Now let's talk about tokenization because this topic is becoming absolutely massive behind the scenes. Tokenization may sound complicated, but the concept is actually simple. It means turning real-world assets into digital blockchain-based assets. That could eventually include stocks, bonds, real estate, currencies, commodities, investment funds, and many other financial products. Now imagine a future where assets move globally almost instantly. Imagine settlement happening in seconds instead of days. Imagine lower transaction costs. Imagine more efficient liquidity movement across financial systems. That's the future many institutions are actively trying to build right now. And Ripple supporters believe XRP could potentially help facilitate liquidity inside those future digital ecosystems. Again, nothing is guaranteed. But the reason this conversation keeps growing is because institutional interest is clearly increasing. And honestly, that's what scares some people the most. Because many investors feel like they missed previous financial revolutions. They missed early tech stocks. They missed early internet companies. They missed major real estate booms. They missed massive AI runs. Now they're looking at blockchain and asking themselves one terrifying question. Am I about to miss the next transformation too? That emotional fear is one of the biggest drivers behind the wealth transfer narrative. Not greed. Fear of being left behind while the financial world changes around you. And whether people admit it or not, millions of investors feel that pressure right now, especially younger generations. Because younger investors watch traditional systems become increasingly difficult. Inflation hurts purchasing power. Housing feels unreachable. Debt keeps growing. Savings lose value over time. Meanwhile, technology continues evolving faster every year. So naturally, many people are searching for opportunities connected to the future rather than the past. That's why XRP discussions continue exploding online. Because supporters believe Ripple built around where finance is heading, not where it's been. Now, could XRP fail? Absolutely. Could competitors dominate instead? Of course. Could governments heavily regulate parts of crypto markets? Yes. Could stablecoins outperform other blockchain assets? Possibly. There are still enormous risks in this industry. Competition is intense. Regulation remains uncertain. Markets remain volatile. And no outcome is guaranteed. But one thing is becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. The financial world is changing. Digital infrastructure is expanding rapidly. Institutional blockchain adoption is growing. And XRP remains one of the few digital assets constantly appearing inside conversations surrounding liquidity systems, financial modernization, tokenization, and cross-border settlement infrastructure. That alone is why so many investors continue paying attention, because history shows something important. The biggest transformations usually look confusing before they become obvious. And sometimes the people who benefit most are simply the ones who recognize a shift before the majority finally understood what was happening. Now here's where this entire conversation starts becoming even more intense, because once you really begin understanding how global finance actually works behind the scenes, you start realizing why so many powerful institutions are suddenly racing toward blockchain infrastructure at the exact same time. And honestly, this is the part most average investors never hear about. Most people only see headlines. Crypto market crashes. Bitcoin pumps. XRP lawsuit update. Banks testing blockchain. But behind those headlines is a much bigger story unfolding quietly in real time. A story about control, liquidity, speed, global settlement systems, and the future architecture of money itself. Because whether people realize it or not, the world economy today runs almost entirely on movement of liquidity. Money moving between banks. Money moving between countries. Money moving between institutions. Money moving between markets. And the faster, cheaper, and more efficiently that liquidity moves, the stronger and more competitive financial systems become. That's why infrastructure matters so much. Now think about this carefully. Every single day, trillions of dollars move around the global financial system. Not millions, trillions. Cross-border payments, institutional settlements, corporate transfers, trade finance, foreign exchange markets, government debt markets. The amount of value moving globally every day is almost impossible for most people to even comprehend. And yet, much of that infrastructure still operates on systems designed decades ago. That's the shocking part. People assume because technology advanced everywhere else that banking infrastructure evolved equally fast. It didn't. A lot of traditional financial systems are still fragmented, slow, expensive, and highly dependent on intermediaries. That creates inefficiencies worth billions and billions of dollars annually. Ripple recognized this years ago. And instead of trying to compete with meme culture or internet hype, Ripple focused directly on liquidity, infrastructure, and institutional settlement systems. That's why XRP supporters constantly talk about utility. Because from their perspective, Ripple wasn't building another speculative internet token. They were building around a real-world financial problem. Now, whether XRP ultimately becomes dominant or not is still uncertain. But one thing nobody can deny anymore is this. Institutional interest in blockchain infrastructure is becoming very real. And honestly, the speed of this shift is starting to surprise even experienced investors. A few years ago, many institutions openly dismissed crypto entirely. Now, some of the largest financial companies on Earth are actively investing into tokenization and blockchain infrastructure. Governments are building digital asset regulations. Banks are experimenting with blockchain settlement systems. Payment providers are modernizing cross-border rails. And major asset managers are discussing tokenized financial markets publicly. That's not a theory anymore. That's reality happening right now. Now, let's talk about why some XRP supporters believe this could eventually lead to one of the largest wealth transfer events in modern history. Historically, whenever society experiences major technological transformation, money tends to move toward the infrastructure enabling that transformation. During the Industrial Revolution, wealth shifted toward manufacturing and transportation systems. During the Internet Revolution, wealth shifted toward digital communication and online commerce. During the mobile technology era, wealth shifted toward smartphones, apps, and global connectivity. And now some investors believe blockchain infrastructure could become the next major foundational layer transforming finance itself. Because if finance eventually becomes increasingly digital, tokenized, and blockchain connected, then systems capable of efficiently moving liquidity may become incredibly valuable. That's the long-term thesis many XRP investors believe in, not hype, infrastructure. Now, another reason this conversation has become so emotional online is because many people feel like they've already missed too many opportunities in life. And honestly, that emotional side matters more than people realize. A lot of younger investors watch previous generations build wealth through opportunities that now feel impossible to reach. Housing became expensive. Inflation increased. Living costs exploded. Debt became overwhelming. And meanwhile, traditional savings often fail to keep up with inflation over time. So when people hear discussions about digital finance potentially becoming the next major financial revolution, naturally, they pay attention. Because deep down, many people feel like the current economic system isn't working for them anymore. That emotional frustration is fueling huge interest across crypto markets generally, not just XRP. People are searching for opportunity, searching for freedom, searching for financial upside, searching for systems that feel newer and more connected to the future. Now, does that automatically mean XRP succeeds? No, absolutely not. And anyone telling you success is guaranteed is being dishonest. There are enormous risks here. Massive risks. Competition inside blockchain finance is becoming incredibly intense. Stablecoins are growing rapidly. Central bank digital currencies are under development globally. Banks are creating private blockchain systems. Governments still control regulation. And technology evolves extremely fast. The tunnel beneath Centralia felt endless. The deeper we walked, the less human the place became. Old mining beams disappeared. Rail tracks ended. Soon the walls looked carved by something ancient, not machines. Something alive. The orange glow ahead pulsed slowly now, like a heartbeat. Tyler whispered, "Do you guys hear breathing?" At first I thought it was just a fire. Then I realized he was right. Something deep underground was breathing. Slow, massive. Marcus tightened his grip on the flashlight. I want out of this town. Nobody answered, because all of us understood something terrible now. Centralia wasn't haunted. The town was feeding something underground. The whispers became louder as we moved deeper. Some voices begged us to turn back. Others invited us forward. Join us. Stay. Below. Then the tunnel opened suddenly into a gigantic underground cavern. And every one of us froze. The cavern looked impossible. Massive cracks filled the ground, glowing with underground fire. Smoke drifted upward endlessly. And surrounding the cavern stood thousands of burned figures, completely motionless, watching us. Tyler whispered, "Oh my God!" Every figure slowly turned toward us at the exact same time. Perfect synchronization. The whispers stopped instantly. Dead silence filled the cavern. Then we saw it. At the center of the cavern, something enormous moved beneath the smoke. Not fully visible, just shape, movement. A massive dark form breathing beneath the glowing cracks. Marcus stepped backward slowly. No! The ground trembled with every breath it took. Lisa stared in horror. The miners didn't start the fire. Tyler looked at her. Then what did? The smoke at the center of the cavern rose higher, forming shapes, faces, thousands of faces screaming silently inside the smoke. Then a voice echoed through the cavern. Deep, ancient, you open the earth. Every burned figure dropped to their knees instantly. The voice continued. And now you belong to me. Marcus shouted, Run. The burned figures rose simultaneously, then charged toward us. Fast, far too fast. Tyler screamed while filming wildly. The cavern exploded into chaos. Smoke swallowed everything. Burned hands reached through the darkness, grabbing at us. Whispers became screams. The massive thing beneath the earth started moving upward. The glowing cracks widened. Orange fire burst from underground. Lisa shouted, This way! We followed her blindly through another tunnel, while the cavern collapsed behind us. Rock crashed everywhere. Heat blasted through the tunnels. Tyler nearly fell as the ground shook violently beneath us. Marcus screamed, Move, move, move. Then the whispers changed. Now they sounded angry, furious. You cannot leave. The tunnel ahead suddenly filled with smoke figures blocking our path. Dozens of burned people standing shoulder to shoulder, smiling. Marcus swung his flashlight wildly. The figures didn't move. Then all of them opened their mouths together. Black smoke poured from inside. Tyler whispered, They're not people. Lisa spotted a narrow opening beside the tunnel wall. There! We squeezed through the crack one at a time while the smoke figures rushed toward us screaming. The sound was unbearable, like thousands of people burning alive underground. The narrow passage climbed upward steeply. Cold air hit us suddenly. Fresh air, Marcus shouted. We're close. Then something grabbed Tyler's leg from the darkness behind us. He screamed violently. A burned hand pulled him backward. Tyler dropped the camera. I grabbed his arm immediately. Marcus grabbed me. Together we pulled him free, while the burned figure hissed from the darkness below. Its face looked melted, eyes glowing orange. You heard us below? Then the passage collapsed behind it. Rock sealed the tunnel shut. Silence followed instantly. Heavy breathing filled the darkness. Then we saw moonlight ahead, the surface. We climbed out onto the broken highway outside Centralia just before sunrise. Smoke drifted quietly across the empty road. The town behind us looked still again. Dead, silent, like none of it happened. Marcus collapsed on the cracked asphalt, breathing heavily. Tyler stared at the camera still clutched in his hands. The lens was cracked. Burn marks covered the side. Lisa looked toward Centralia one final time. It's still down there. Nobody answered, because deep beneath the earth, we heard it again. Knock, 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 breathing beneath the town. Waiting. And then Tyler checked the footage. Most of it was corrupted. Static. Black screens. Distorted audio. But one clip remained clear. The underground cavern. Frame by frame. The camera captured the massive shape beneath the smoke. And for one horrifying second, the thing opened one giant glowing eye, looking directly into the camera. Then the recording ended. Tyler deleted the footage that same morning. Marcus refuses to even say the name Centralia anymore. Lisa stopped investigating haunted places completely. And me? Sometimes late at night, I still smell smoke in my apartment. Sometimes I hear whispers beneath the floor. And every now and then, right before falling asleep, I hear knocking under my bed. Slow, patient, waiting for me to come below.